Thank you, Chairman, for holding this hearing and for arranging this opportunity to hear from survivors of Russian war crimes. Hearing those testimonies from our witnesses was really heartbreaking, and my heart breaks for the victims, and I join my colleagues in demanding accountability. Mr. Costin, thank you so much for joining us today and answering these questions, but I want to ask you first, of the approximately 80,000 investigations that have been opened, how many of those are that your office have been able to prosecute to the final verdict as of today, since the start of the full-scale invasion?
For the more than 80 or about 80,000 incidents of war crimes which we registered at the moment, we have identified 310 potential perpetrators and we informed them about suspicion. We have finished cases against 152 potential war criminals. So their indictments were sent to courts. And up to date, we have 31 Russian war criminals convicted by Ukrainian courts in course of this war.
That is, you have a lot of work there. I mean, there are crimes being committed against humanity. We want to see justice, and especially as we heard these testimonies and hearing you detail the stories of rape and sexual violence against Ukrainian women, and especially against girls, it's heartbreaking. And so, how many of those cases involve sexual violence against women, and how many of those cases have your office been able to prosecute, and are these numbers reflective of the true number of victims of sexual violence at the hands of the Russians? You've only identified 31 out of the 80,000 that you're investigating, 310 identified, 152 potential, and you said 31 committed by Russians. We look, I mean, it's a very small number that so far that's been identified compared to what we are seeing.
The issue, I mentioned 31 cases which have conviction verdicts of courts. And some of them are held in absentia because we have identified the perpetrators. We have full set of evidences, but we can't wait if we someday will capture them. But the procedure of cases in absentia is a little bit longer because of procedural limitations. So I think that in course of this war, to convict already 31 persons, where in many cases it's very difficult for us to identify, is the result which is respected actually by Ukrainians.
Sure.
We have thousands of the war criminals whom we identified, but we have no full set of evidences. That's why I'm asking also for intelligence information. And I could comment on conflict-related sexual violence if you wish. We have...
Sure, yes, let's do that. But I do want to talk about the other areas of, since the beginning of the war, Russia has intentionally targeted apartment buildings, playgrounds, malls, train stations, schools, where Ukrainians were trying to flee the fighting. And they show no regard for the lives of women and children. And it even bombed a building where there was a clear word written, children, right? It was so large, so bold that you can see it from the satellite in space. These are war crimes, plain and simple. So what do you believe is Russia's goal in terrorizing Ukrainian civilians this way?
You know, this war shows that Russia many of Russians, they are dehumanized. This is maybe the only possible explanations why are they so brutal. Because when I spoke with the survivors, you met only 2 of them today. We meet with others. And you can't understand absolutely why they are doing this. Maybe just because they want to destroy Ukraine as a country and as a nation. Maybe they have been told that people in Ukraine are waiting for them. And when they understand that this is not the true, they start to kill, they start to torture, they start to do, I mean, bombing this theater. And this was a bomb you mentioned even from satellite, but this was bombing on a very low height, so that the pilot of this aircraft could see by his eyes that it's children, дети, and in Russian and in Ukrainian. So I heard, I suppose it was even written in Russian, дети, yes, by Russian letters. Yeah, so for me it's very difficult to understand why are they behaving like this. The only possible explanation is that they just want to erase Ukraine and Ukrainians from the land, because they're the same patterns, the same conduct which we all saw in first months of war in Kyiv region, in Bucha, Irpin, and others. And this was world known. And when we saw the same after liberation in Kharkiv region in September, and we saw the same cases, May, June, July, August, September, and then Kherson, November, and then our brave and courageous survivor today, this crime was committed against her January this year, because she was still on the occupied territory of Kherson region at that time. So 1 year, same conduct. Even if they know that these war crimes were committed by their servicemen, by their people before, they proceed to do it, even knowing that all the world is condemning such brutal behavior. So maybe because they really want to kill all of us.
It's just heartbreaking to hear this. Thank you so much. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here. I know we went way over our time. I yield back.
But it was well worth it. Chair now recognizes Ms. Sarah Jacobs.
Thank you.